Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely to speak with you, and I will dive straight into the questions because we've already had our little catch up. So, I just want to know to begin with, I know it was a little while ago now, but what was life like for you before we started working together, like around the time that you decided to sign up to a
hmm
coaching course?
So we started working together in the first lockdown.
Yeah. Hmm.
So everything was very um, ambiguous, in flux. I had just finished working with a different coach, and I was looking to work with someone who had a very different style for my own growth, different experiences. And I guess like what life was like. Um, Everything just felt really frightening, I guess, and really like
Mm.
I felt very disempowered. I think a lot of us felt that way at that time. Um, but I'm a very ambitious person, so it still felt really important to me to continue to grow and um, support myself, I guess, during that time. And yeah, it does feel like a long time ago. I remember
Yeah.
as well. It was in my work. It was a difficult time because I had just made the decision to focus on group coaching because that's my passion. And I, um, at the time, that's really what I felt, was so important to have my main focus on like in person group work. And then it's like that illegal, that is literally illegal for you to do. So I think it was also a time of kind of like, what does that mean to me? Like, who am I going to be now? Kind of really big questions, I guess, at the time.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And my next question is around like, were you nervous about joining and was there a key moment that you decided to say yes? And I think considering how uncertain life was at that time, it feels like that was probably an even bigger decision than maybe it would be outside of times like that. So I'd love to hear
Mm.
about that part for you.
It's interesting because it felt like the easiest decision in the world.
Yeah.
Like genuinely, it felt so easy. I remember finding you on the gram. I can't remember how. It's one of those things, isn't it? You meet people on Instagram and you couldn't trace your steps back to see how you found them. But um, and I just remember watching some of your stories talking about this group program, and it just felt so like the balm I needed is like the
Oh,
best way I can describe it. And the fact that it was your approach is very um I guess what we would say in the coaching world, like emergent, but like very fluid, isn't it? So I remember thinking all the topics that you listed as things that we could work on. I was like, yep, 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 yep. All of those things sounds great. And the moment that really, I think the moment when I was like, I need to get on the phone to Emma to like really speak to you about what the program's going to be, and I kind of felt strongly that it was going to be a really good fit for me was your blog post that was about your business journey.
mm,
Um, and I just related to it so much, and it felt very inspiring, I guess, to see that you had found ways to overcome things that I was in at that time. So I guess I was really keen to get some of your wisdom and just be in that space with you. And then obviously when we had a chat, I was really interested to know from you about like coaching versus mentoring and how that was going to fit in the program. And it just sounded like um, that was going to be really good for me as well. How you're going to manage that. So yeah, it just felt like a no-brainer, and you had a really um like a payment plan that worked for me at the time. I know pricing is one of those things, isn't it? It's either you can either afford it or you can't. At the time I could, so that was also luckily for me a no-brainer.
yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And when you then came into the experience and it
hmm
was a long program, it was 9 months long. So
Yeah. hmm
I'm sure there were like multiple points, but was it what you had expected? Were there any surprises along the way for you?
It was not what I expected at all. Oh my God. I don't know what, to be honest, Emma, I don't know what I was expecting. I was
Mhm.
just like, oh, this will be good. like this feels good. Like this feels like a nice way to support myself during this deeply ambiguous time in a way that's like affordable to me and with a coach that feels super aligned. So I was kind of, I guess, in a way, like just along for the ride, like to see what would happen, quite
Yeah.
curious. So I think I left that program a different person. And that's like
Okay.
not an exaggeration, right? And I didn't expect that. I didn't come into Ancient Wisdom Modern Woman to be like, I need or I want to change or I want to look at my beliefs or I mean I you kind of know there's going to be some of that, but it wasn't my intention, I guess, coming in to be like I'm going to be a new, I'm going to evolve, or I didn't know that was going to happen in the way that it did, like the depth that it did. And I think because it was 9 months and the nature of having resources from you to think on, like everything, I felt like there was so much space for those concepts that we were coaching on to really percolate. And I think that's what, for me, like, and I made huge decisions in that program. Like, do you remember I completely closed my business
Yeah.
and like burnt it to the ground?
Wow.
And I got rid of everything that I used to sell, all my branding, like everything was, um, I called it a phoenixing. And it was like this burn it and rebirth time. And the thing that I built that came out of that, the experiments that I did through that program are now the foundation for the business I still like I run now that feels really still really aligned. And that's like years later, isn't it? So it was
Yeah.
really impactful. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to work with you, so I was very curious to explore my spirituality. And I'd been, because in being in the Instagram coaching world, it's like it's always there.
Mhm.
And I wanted some space to really think about what do I believe? Like what does that mean for me? And um and there was so much space to do that. And I think I was kind of like, yeah, let's explore that. But I didn't expect it to be quite as powerful as it was. Um, and the stuff that we looked at in that first month was just like mind blowing. And the books that I read on your recommendation, and not that I like kind of not that everything wholesale I was like, yep, yep, yep. But it was just really there was just some really good challenging stuff that we talked about that did really make me think like, what's true for me? And I think, I mean, that's the beauty of coaching and being, I guess, like that really non-judgmental space as well of those group calls to be able to just really get into um the meaty stuff, I guess, and really bring those big questions. And at the time, you know, we coached through the Black Lives Matter riots, and that was also like such an intense time for everyone, and um, especially people in helping professions. I think to really think about like, where do you like, how are you going to be different after this?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't remember your question now. I've talked for so long.
That was beautiful. That was great. And I'm hearing for you like it was kind of low stakes to come in. Like you didn't have these massive expectations of a huge transformation. I think that's really interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of what I see in the coaching industry is selling a huge high stakes transformation. And
Mm.
this sounds like it was really different than that for you, which is really lovely to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get that. That wasn't what I came, I guess what I remember from your pitch around the program was really about turning inwards. And um that I really felt like I needed that after being, you know, I'd had my first 9 months in business and it had been 9 months of outsourcing all my decisions because that's what I needed to feel safe. So that's what I
Mhm.
did. And like no shade on the Kate who did that. Like
Yeah.
I needed the security of what outsourcing gives you. So it was, I guess that for me, that was what I wanted out of the program was to trust myself a bit more, um, on this thing that really matters to me.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And I know it's a while back, but if you can cast your mind back, how would you describe my coaching style?
Mm, really warm, really caring and attentive, and with no agenda, which I
Mm,
think is like that. I feel like that should go without saying, but I don't. I think it really bears saying that I never felt like in our when you were coaching me that you were trying to bring me to a particular answer or a particular outcome. I felt like you trusted completely that I would find the right way for me. Um, and I think having someone trust you helps you then so much trust yourself. It's like this beautiful, like self um, fulfilling thing.
mm,
And I also really loved that your coaching was so focused on bringing us back to like our bodies and our emotions, and like I guess for me your style was about stepping away from the thinking and coming back to like what's it to be you in this moment, and
mm.
how is that going to help you do something about whatever it was that I would bring to the cause, rather than like coaching my headspace. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it really does. And it's so lovely to hear it reflected back because it's so hard, isn't it? I mean, you're a coach, you know this. It's so hard to know what it is you do. So it's really lovely to hear that. Um, you mentioned your Phoenix moment, you're burning it all
Mm,
to the ground, but and I'd love to hear more about that if that's what comes up. But were there any real like standout pivotal moments for you during the program?
mhm. Yes. So month one being to receive was like I had it's like my world got bigger. So that first month was so expansive, and it was like I opened the oh, it's the post. Um, it was like opening the door to this world of thinking and ideas that was totally new to me. Because I guess my understanding of like what it was to be spiritual was like your horoscope, and that's not my thing. But like if it works, great. If it, so it was really cool to expand what it meant to have a spiritual practice, and that was really really big for me. So that moment, and then also obviously, yeah, closing my business, I did a whole ritual with one of my other coaching friends to sort of celebrate what had worked and let go of bad vibes that I had around um, that outsourcing, I guess. And but then the other thing that happened that was so major was I reopened like an online presence, and it was a pure experiment. I didn't have anything to sell because I'd lost a lot of confidence that I was finding again on this program. But what I did sell, I made like a little PDF. It was like creative writing for weird times. It was this little ebook,
Yeah.
and I made it and sold it, and I sold a few copies like straight away. And I didn't make loads of money, like couple quid, but that felt so meaningful because that sale, that money that I had generated was mine. Like every single decision in that process, every choice about the content, how it looked, how I was going to sell it, the price, everything was from me. And it was a really that I see that is a really important moment. Like that £1.30. I've increased the price since because I do think I was underselling it. But that first £1.30 I made when someone bought it, I was like, that's it, that's insane. That's mine. I've made that off my own back. It was really cool.
Oh, that just it feels so good. And I love hearing you say like the amount was irrelevant. It was
Mm,
just receiving some money, people saying, yes, I'm willing to pay you for something you've created that has come right from within you. Like,
mm-hmm.
yes, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt really good. And I think the thing that also makes that feel doubly powerful is that content I'd originally created. to be a automated email sales funnel type like um job, and it never did anything for me. But I hated it. I hated that I had this funnel, and I was like, what the fuck is this for? Like, I don't, like, why have I made this? And why am I giving this? I'm like giving this content away for an email address. That also feels really gross. If someone wants to hear from me, I want them to just want to hear from me and not be this weird trade of like, give me your personal data for this. Like, it just felt so gross to me. So, reclaiming that content, turning it into something that I feel is really beautiful and just like a lovely object that I self that and the trade isn't your email, the trade is just money. That felt really significant as well, to move away from this is how you do business. And I guess when I came into your program, that's sort of the stuff I wanted to leave behind, because I had done like 9 months of this is how you do business, because it felt really safe but also really shit. So yeah, that was a really, really big moment.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's so lovely to hear. And so, who would you say that this type of work that I do, that we did together, who would you say that's suited to?
I think anyone who's really curious about their intuition and their instinct, and doing things in a really um kind of true to you, really authentic way. Like anyone who wants to be more authentic to themselves, I would say like that's who this work is for. And anyone who's ready for everything to change. Because I think if you're not ready for everything to change, then it might working with you might be a little bit of a shock because from my experience, everything changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the that openness and the willingness to see what happens and um, be curious about new ways of doing things. Curious, open, adventurous people.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. And I mean, where are you now? Can you tell us a little bit about, you said that some of the foundations you set back then, like built what your business has grown into. I'd love to hear more about your business now and what you're up to.
Yes. So when I first was in business, it was really the like time of the niche. Um,
Mm.
so I niched down as a coach for writers, and my tagline was something like on the page, on the stage, on the screen, something like this. And it was all very, in a way, like very corporate, I think,
Mm.
um, which I haven't made that connection until right now. It's super interesting. And and that was my niche. And I think since then, where I am now it's just like, I guess now I'm so much more comfortable being myself in my business
Mm.
and being really eclectic and really colorful. And I don't have a niche anymore. Like, I consider that I am my niche. Like, I don't know, it can be great. If I'm not the person you want to work with, that's also fine. There's lots of people out there. It doesn't feel like I'm trying so hard. So that feels really, that's kind of where I am. And I guess more in more concrete terms. So I've got a new, much cleaner business offer. I really stand behind all my coaching prices. And I think the main difference now, like before I tried to merge, I felt like I had to merge all my interests into one offer. But now I'm like, no, that's not the case. I offer coaching, and then I have other services that are about creativity, and you can be involved in as much or as little of those things as you want. Some of it's free, some of it's paying. And it feels just like what I have now is so much more representative of me and who I am and my passions and what I'm good at, it just feels it feels truer.
Amazing. I just hear like so much freedom around this now. Like the way you described it before felt so like limited, like you had to put yourself into a box. And um, when you describe it now, I'm just like, you could do anything. Like you haven't
Yeah.
limited your creativity in any way, which is what you're a teacher of. So it's so beautiful to
Mm.
see that reflection.
Thanks, Emma.
Love that. Um, What would you say to someone who right now is considering maybe working with me? If they are on the fence, what would you say to that person? What do they need to know? What do they need to hear to make the decision either way, to know if it's a yes or it's a no?
Um, I guess I would say like to just get on the phone with you. Like if there's any like if there are any doubts or any questions, to literally just be in communication with you, because I think that was really important for me in that final making that final decision, was having a conversation with you and feeling what that was going to be like, and like asking some questions. So I think that would be my first thing I would say, is if anyone is considering working with you but hasn't made up their mind, to just chat with you about it. And I think also part of me is like, oh, just do it. Like, I can understand that everyone makes decisions the way that I do, which is like quite impulsive. Um, yeah, I think have a really good conversation with you about what it is they would want to get out of coaching, and get clear on whether or not you're the right coach to help them with that transformation. That would be what I'd say. It's kind of a bland coachy response though.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And I think, I know that sometimes people are really afraid to get onto these calls initially. Like there can
Mm,
be some fear around what's going to happen in those calls. And I think the way you've just described it there is like, it is exactly what it is, right? It is always meant to be. Doesn't mean it always is this way with every coach, but it's
yeah.
always meant to be an opportunity to ask questions, to see if it really is the right thing, and
Mm,
to know either way, like not to be convinced or um bullied into any kind of getting
yeah.
your credit card out or anything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I really appreciate you kind of saying that that's the purpose of those calls, because
Mm.
we need to hear that. So beautiful. Um, is there anything else that you want to say, want to share, that hasn't been said so far?
Um, I guess just to summarize, like it was really impactful working together. It was 9 really powerful months, and I'm still benefiting from that today.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And it was just such a joy to be with that group, and to be with you on that journey through that very strange time. So,
So wild.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for your time today. I really appreciate it.